listener production.
Hey, it's Antoinette Lattouf with the Weekend Briefing, where the headlines get a timeout and I zoom in on someone worth your attention. And my guest today has spent 5 decades on the stage and the screen, and her appetite for the spotlight suggests that her bucket list is nowhere near done. As a teenager, Marcia Hines left the United States for what she believed was Austria, only to arrive in Australia instead, pregnant without knowing, and somehow stepped straight into a hit musical. Since then, she's topped charts, stared down illness, and more recently nurtured new talent as a judge on Australian Idol. And she says she treats that job with care, and while others may talk big, she refuses to sell young singers a fantasy. Marcia is about to receive her latest honour and opens up about why it matters. Later in the show, it is the Weekend List with Helen Smith, and that is your guide on what to watch, do, eat and listen to because, well, we consider unsolicited advice to be a bit of a public service. But first, Marcia Hines. Marcia Hines, welcome to the Weekend Briefing.
Thank you.
I want to take a moment to transport you back to your grandmother's Baptist church because, as I understand, that's where your fascination or love of music and choir started to form.
Absolutely. But most Black children in America are brought up in church. And so I was no different. And my mother was Church of England and my godmother was Baptist. And so I'd go dutifully to my mother's church, which is really boring. And then I'd run down the road to the Baptist church where the good music was. And I'd hang out with my godmother, yeah.
And I see that you obviously, and I've seen a lot of your photographs, you're obviously, a proud and practicing Christian. Where do you practice now? Obviously, because you were between two churches as a child.
Well, I was always told you don't have to go to church to practice being a good Christian.
Sure.
And so, wherever I am, that's where I am, yeah.
Oh, I love that. And coming to Australia, and I quite like this story because it reminds me of my mother as well. When she was coming to Australia, she thought she was going to America. You thought you were going to Austria.
Yes, I thought I was going to Austria. Yeah, how'd she go? She chose better than America, your mom.
Why do you think that?
Well, because I just think it was a great place to grow up. And my memories of America were great. And I grew up in America as a Jamaican child. So I'm Jamaican by heritage. I look at America now and I just find the place totally confusing. And I think, personally, I can only speak for myself, but I think Australia has been a great place to bring up my child, Deni. It's been wonderful.
And about your child, Deni, when you came to Australia at 16, which is such a tender age to move across the other side of the world in pursuit of your career in a role, you found out just a few months later that you were pregnant with Deni.
Absolutely, yeah. I was always taught, what was I going to do? I'd come to a new country and I told my mom that I was pregnant and she said, yes, I know. I was just waiting for you to tell me. Yeah, but she said, you've chosen a very strange career. And if you can't take care of the baby, send the baby home. I'll take care of it. So that in itself was an incredible exhale for me, because I didn't know what I was going to do. But because my mother supported me in my career and having a child, it made it a lot easier than most, I'd say.
That's incredible to hear because a lot of, sometimes I wonder if it's just the freedom to know you have support that enables you to drive within to go, you know what, I've got this. Just knowing that there's a backup plan.
I agree, but that's with everything in life.
Yeah.
Be it right or be it wrong. If you've got the support of someone who loves you and who understands you and someone, most importantly, that you can trust, you got good backup there.
So you moved to King's Cross and you haven't moved far from there. As I understand, you still live close to King's Cross?
Yeah, I'm still in the hood. But it's so funny because when I went to King's Cross, everybody said, oh, it's so dangerous, blah, 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 blah. And I said, well, compared to what?
Yeah.
I'm from Boston.
Yeah.
And I used to spend my summers in New York. Compared to what? It was very bohemian. It was really cool. It was a great place to hang out. And I found it incredibly safe. Great places like Les Girls and places like that were up there. And when I came to Australia, the Vietnam War was still happening. And so a lot of American soldiers were coming back to Australia for what they called R&R so that they could acclimatize themselves into normality so they could go back to the States. So it was a very interesting time to be living in Sydney.
Let's talk about your career because you have had one of the most enduring and celebrated careers in the industry, 50 years as I understand it. What I found incredibly interesting is that you have the same manager that you've had for 5 decades.
Yeah, I'm blessed.
Is that like an industry record? I can't imagine that's commonplace.
It would be close to one. I think Roger Davies, who manages Pink. He was managing Sade, he was managing Olivia Newton, and he used to manage Sherbet as well with Daryl Braithwaite. So a lot of them have still he's been with them for 30 years or something. So he's not my manager, he's my brother. You know, when you go through all this stuff we've gone through, births, deaths, and marriages, you know, and many tears and lots of humor. And some great successes, you know, and I think I know it's an unusual dynamic, but I'm very, very grateful for it.
You hit stardom in the 70s and 80s. I'm interested in your reflections on what stardom looked like then compared to what it is now.
Stardom looked like packing lots of suitcases.
Yeah.
And traveling a lot and hardly ever being home. That's what stardom is.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and as a person who's done well, you don't really look at what you've achieved. You just continue on.
Yeah.
You know, you can look at other people achieving and go, wow, look at them. Aren't they doing great? But you don't really, I don't walk past every reflection that I see of myself and kiss it, you know. I don't have time for that.
Do you wish you had more time to do that?
No, I've lived my life. I'm living my life. No, I don't wish upon anything. I don't dwell. And that was one of my great lessons as a child. When it's done, don't dwell, move on.
Yeah.
So I can't change it. And would I? No, you couldn't pay me to be 30. You couldn't pay me to be 25. For what? I did that.
Yeah, you've lived a big life, but it's less about going back, but more about taking more pause to take it in.
I took lots. No, I took lots. Considering the life I've lived, I've seen more life than most people. And if you snooze, you'll lose. You know, you got to keep going, but you got to be really aware of what's around you. And I thank my blessings every day, and I'm quite aware of the life I'm living and I've lived. Yeah. The great thing about church was in church, it teaches you humility. It teaches you grace and gratitude and how important it is to take care of your elders. Because but for the grace of God, go I, that could be me, you know. So if you see somebody in the street that looks a bit bewildered or lonely, you got to speak to them. That's what I was taught. And so I live my life. And I think one of the best things in this world is to be kind. It's so difficult to be nasty because you got to think about it.
Yeah, it takes a lot. It takes a lot of effort. Yeah, it does take a lot of effort. And you did also get the reputation, continue to have a reputation of being the kind and nurturing judge on Australian Idol.
But that's because, you know, I have to explain to people why. That is my nature. But when I first came to Australia, I was the youngest person to ever do hair in the world, really.
Hair the musical.
Yes. And everybody around me was so much more mature and together. And I didn't know much. And I'd ask questions. I'm very inquisitive by nature, but I'd ask questions and knock on their dressing room doors and ask them questions. And they never, ever said to me, Marcia, I'm too busy. Go away. And so that's what you see with me, with the kids, with Australian Idol, you know. You've got to remember they've been plucked out of obscurity and put on our television screens. And everybody's got an opinion about them. But also, if you're going to give someone criticism, make sure it's a constructive criticism they can take away and use. That's all you see with me, you know, because people have been kind to me. And I think if people have been kind to you in your life, then you tend to return the favor. I do hope that's the case. Yeah.
One of the things about the Australian Idol franchise is obviously delivered some incredible stars, an enormous amount of entertainment across Australian households. Do you ever wonder if it can't deliver on the hopes of some of the contestants? You know, a lot of people go through and they think, I'm going to be the next star.
No, that's the most silly thing you can think. I mean, and, you know, I hear people use the word star so liberally. And it's just a word I won't use because I don't know how it happens. I still don't know, except a lot of hard work. But, you know, like I would never say to someone, oh, you're going to be a star. I'd be lying because I don't know what they're willing. I don't know what they're willing to sacrifice. You know, I don't know what their work. And it's about your work ethic. I have an amazing work ethic from my parents, you know. And, you can be taught that. But I think it should be part of who you are. That's part of your nature too. And I'm sure you've got one too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is part of your honesty. I mean, I guess what I see across sort of these talent shows on reality TV, across a variety of them, is sometimes you hear that promise, you're going to go all the way. I see you're the next big star. I see you shaking your head.
You can, like whoever says that, they can own it, but I don't believe those words would pass my lips, because I'd be lying. I don't know what's going to happen. I know what's going to happen right now because you and I are speaking, but I don't know what's going to happen when I walk out my door. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. To me, that's one of the great things about life. But, you can encourage them and say, like, if you were to work really hard, you have to choose your words. And, and I say to the kids all the time on Idol, one of the biggest lessons you're going to ever learn is you must learn to listen. And if you listen to people who mean you well, you're usually on the right track.
You have released 22 albums and they've sold millions of copies. You were inducted into the ARIA Hall of Fame in 2007, Order of Australia in 2009. What I'm hearing from your voice and your energy is you are not done.
No.
You are not nearly done.
Well, it's not even a case of done. This is what I do. This is my blessing. And I'm quite aware of it, and I take care of my throat and I take care of my body. And I have to do that because I am an instrument, and look, there's a singer coming to Sydney. I think it's in December. And she's 85. Her name is Patti LaBelle. And I can't wait.
Oh, yes.
And Diana Ross is still working. I mean, what are we going to do? Someone said to me, why don't you move to the country? I said, what, garden? No. No.
Not for you. Not for you. Yeah.
No, not right now. I have plants around me and I love growing things. But no, I think as long as I can do this, and it takes a lot of energy and it takes a lot of willpower to perform. But as long as I can do this and still enjoy it, and there is not a drug on this earth that you could take to feel the feeling that you get when you're on stage performing for an audience who love you. There's nothing in this world, the euphoria is amazing. And I still feel that, and I love the love that comes out of that audience to me, and I love giving it back. Yeah.
What a gift that is for you. True. And for audiences.
Well, it's my gift to them. Yeah.
You mentioned looking after your health, and you have been living with type 1 diabetes for decades now.
Yes.
And you're also an ambassador for Diabetes Australia. I do remember noticing, I think you were wearing what was a glucose monitoring patch for an Idol. Oh, there it is.
I just bling it up a bit because it's very plain. But so I stick a little star on it or something. Yeah, because it's very it's very plain. So I thought, why not bejewel it? Bedazzle it.
I love that. And what is living with diabetes and living healthily with type 1 diabetes like? For those like me who don't know.
No, you're cool. It's pretty straight ahead. But that's my decision in this matter. I don't have cancer. I don't have leukemia. I don't have a life-threatening disease, and so far my body's taking good care of itself. So I don't complain, and it was a wake-up call that I obviously needed. I believe what happens to you happens, and you're not going to change that. And so living with it, it's funny because I was looking at all these I saw Serena Williams on a feed that came up, and she had one on, and I didn't know she was the diabetic, but she actually uses it to monitor her blood sugars, right?
Yes.
And then Halle Berry, quite a few tennis players and sports people are diabetic. And, you just have to monitor it and keep jelly beans on hand. And most importantly, have a great endocrinologist, have a great doctor.
Yeah,
that's
right.
That's all you can do. Yeah.
So was it fainting spells and dizzy spells that?
Yeah, and it also is all the women in my family are type 1 diabetics.
Yeah,
so
right.
It was genetics. So, and I get the side of genetics. I've been really blessed with my physique, and I've been blessed with the skin. So far, so good, I'm doing okay.
Yin and yang, we'll take the diabetic patch and look this incredible and feel this good.
That's right,
You have reflected, and you mentioned earlier in the chat, your reflections on the US now, and it is a country that, you don't recognise as much.
It seems to be in turmoil at the moment. And, my manager, Peter Ricks, he studied Italian history. And he said to me, what we're witnessing at this point in time, it looks like the fall of the Roman Empire. And every empire does tend to concave, so yeah. I mean, it's sad to see. And I still have family in Jamaica and Canada and America. So, and they keep me abreast, and what they're telling me is not fun.
It must be unsettling, to have a connection to a place and to worry about it from afar.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. But I do believe in good. And I think, what goes around comes around. So I think it might get its footing back. I do hope so.
I did mention a whole bunch of your awards and accolades which continue to grow, and that includes the Parkes Elvis Festival, where you are going to be the 2026 Wall of Fame inductee. What some people may not know is that you were actually in a play about Elvis Presley.
I so sure was.
Yeah, and I bet it was a little bit sad.
Yes, my dear, it was worse than sad. I remember reading the script when it came to me. And I burst into tears when I finished it because his life was so sad. And the play was based on the last, say, or 40 some odd hours of his life. And so, you saw the train crash that was his life, and it was very heavy. It was very heavy, but it really needed to be seen. And it was called Are You Lonesome Tonight? And my part in it was I was his cook and maid, not so much his maid, but his cook. And as everybody knew, he was mad about food. And so consequently, I was the only one who could speak to him badly. Like he'd speak to me and I'd speak back, and he loved me, the back chat thing. And then in the beginning of the play, I walk on and I sing because I couldn't, in actual fact, this cook could not sing. And I'd sing to him and he'd just crack up and say, "You're the only Black woman I know who can't sing," And so at the very end of the play, I sing at his funeral in perfect tune, and I sing Peace in the Valley, which was one of his favorite songs.
What is your favorite Elvis song?
Be something sexy, like because I found him so sexy. I really like Jailhouse Rock because he was so fresh and everything. Then I like Caught in a Trap. I like Elvis. I am a huge fan of Elvis. And I was just on a cruise. I digress, but I was just on a cruise with quite a few Elvises, and Charlie. You know of this Elvis personator?
Yes, I've heard.
I think he's about 90.
Yeah, yes.
Whoa. And everybody on the cruise kept saying to me, "Marcia, go and see Charlie. Marcia, go and see Charlie. This guy's amazing." And then I went to the theater on the ship, and I was blown away. I've actually become a friend of his. On Facebook. But yeah, and I said to him, "Charlie, why, you're a baby. Why Elvis?" He said, "Oh, I saw the movie and I thought I can sing and I can dance and I like Elvis. So here I am." He was brilliant. He had the audience spellbound.
It's interesting that you say, "Why Elvis, you're a baby," for this 19-year-old, because I wonder if Elvis's legacy will endure. And the only reason I say this is my daughters, who are 13 and 10, one of them was telling a story about a boy at school. And they said, "And Presley said this." And I was like, "Oh, everybody must sing Elvis Presley and make Elvis Presley jokes to him." They're like, "Who?" And nobody says, "What?"
"Oh, no, that's a really cool. No, that's a real, you tell your daughter," I said, "That's a very cool name."
Yeah.
Yeah, Presley. That's very cool.
But I was just,
yes.
I was surprised that they didn't know who he was. But I'm like, they're 13.
Well, no, don't be, because there's Lady Gaga now and there's, Bruno Mars.
Exactly.
And, you know what I mean? So that's what they're into. But his grandparents would know who Elvis is and probably plays Elvis at all the barbecues. You know what I mean? So the reason we like the music we like is because of what our parents or grandparents or aunties do, play for us, So I don't think Elvis will ever fade.
Yeah.
No. Well, many others will, but he was the king. And the precedent that he set was on another level. And also, once again, his kindness was on another level too. And I don't think people will ever forget that. I think to be a star of such an incredible, well, I don't know, into the stratosphere and be a kind man, I think that's a beautiful, beautiful thing to know.
You're clearly such a passionate person, and it's beautiful and contagious to watch.
Oh, thank you.
One of your most recent passions, I can see, based on your social media and the cute little fluff ball in the back of this interview, you have a puppy.
Yes, we have 2 dogs and a cat. So my cat's name is Sister.
Oh, okay.
Right? Spelled Sistah, Sister.
Okay.
And my dog's name is Brother, spelled Bratha. So I've got brother and sister in the house. It's cute.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that phonetic spelling. Sorry, I just got a little bit distracted by the cute puppy.
The dog.
Yeah, the cute puppy. Let's get back on track. You'll also be performing at the Parkes Music Festival. What can audiences expect?
Oh, look, it won't be Elvis, but it might be. You never know. But look, I've got a really good group of people that I perform with, and we're all really looking forward to doing a show up that way. And I got to say, I'm really stoked about, being inducted. I think, people say, oh, an award or whatever. Thing is, you only put an award down if you've never had one. And I'm very proud of everything I've achieved and I'm achieving. It's pretty nice,
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
Have an amazing time. I look forward to watching in awe of what comes next.
Thank you so much.
Marcia Hines will be inducted into the Wall of Fame at the Parkes Elvis Festival, and that's on from the 7th to the 11th of January, where it'll welcome 25,000 people for what is the largest celebration of the King in the Southern Hemisphere. It is the Weekend List. That's where producer extraordinaire Helen Smith joins me in the studio with a bunch of tips on what to watch, see, eat and do. And I have a couple to throw in the mix too. But first, what have you got, Helen?
All right. My first recommendation is Frankenstein on Netflix. Now,
Okay.
I feel like Frankenstein has been done a million trillion times.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, how can they do it?
Yes, but they have.
But they have. They've managed to.
Yep.
And it's actually starring Aussie actor Jacob Elordi. So he became really big in Euphoria. So he's a Melbourne boy and he's very tall. That's generally a good-looking guy, very tall, and he plays the creature or Frankenstein. And look, it is a bit slow to start, but once it speeds up a little bit, great. It's also a very long film. I think it was nearly 3 hours, so it definitely could be shorter.
3 hours, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's on Netflix, so you can stop, pause, watch half, watch half.
Yeah.
But it also stars Mia Goth, who I'm obsessed with. She's an amazing actor and she's usually in horror.
Okay.
But she kind of has signature or iconic. She has like almost really light eyebrows and her facial features are just so striking. And she, honestly, how she moves her face and I don't know, just her expressions are just so uniquely hers and I love them so much. And anything she's in, she's usually the star, which I think she took most of the attention in this film for me, but I'm a little bit biased. But then Oscar Isaac, who I'd never really heard of, is playing Victor in this. He's Frankenstein's creator.
Okay.
Really strong actor, really good. The only thing is Jacob Elordi is going around doing these press tours saying the makeup on the full body would take up to 10 hours. Now, I watched this with my housemates and we beg to differ. The makeup could have been 10 hours to do what, like Google, once you watch it, Google it.
So you reckon that it wasn't?
I reckon
I'm going to do a quick Google.
That is not a 10-hour job, but I'd love to know any listeners who are makeup artists or who work in this kind of special effects. The face, yeah, I can see it, but the rest of the body, I was like, 10 hours?
Yeah, right. Okay.
It just kind of looks like a bit of lines and grey paint.
Okay, so
look,
yes for the film, but no for the comments about makeup.
Yeah, and for the length. It could have been shorter.
Okay.
But towards the end, there's some really sweet moments and it's just a kind of good take on what is a monster and creation and being human and what does it mean. So I love those kind of things. But yeah, recommend it, but
maybe in 2 sittings.
Maybe in 2 sittings.
Okay.
And yeah, with less judgment than me.
Okay, so my recommendation is a recommendation, but it comes with a bit of a warning because the product I'm going to recommend is beautiful and natural on the skin, but it smells like ass. Like it smells terrible, right?
Right.
And I thought maybe it was just me, but I went to have a look at the reviews and the reviews are, this smells like cigarettes, so disgusting.
Oh.
However, the impact is beautiful. So this is Lush's Vision Facial Serum. It is entirely natural. It's made from jojoba, rose, the plant neroli, lavender, a whole bunch of oils like organic rosehip oil and organic jojoba oil. When it first goes on your face, it looks quite oily and shiny, but your skin will just drink it up overnight and you wake up feeling so hydrated. And you don't smell, your face doesn't smell like ass the next morning.
Yeah, I was going to say, if it smells that bad, why are we putting it on our face?
It does smell bad, but the truth is when things smell pretty, a lot of the times
they're not good for you.
It's
actually.
artificial, right? And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go with this whole El Natural thing. I put it on and I've been using it for a few weeks and my skin feels really hydrated and lovely and not irritated at all. So it is called Vision Facial Serum by Lush, and don't read the reviews about the smell, but do give it a try because I have found it to be super hydrating and just feels beautiful on the skin. So maybe that's a nice little thing to pop in as a Christmas gift.
That is a good idea, actually. Cool. Well, I'll try and ignore the smell, but I'll try. My next recommendation is this thing called Ausify. So Ausify is an Instagram page and also they have playlists. So it's Ausify your algorithm or Ausify your algo, like short for algorithm. Yeah. And it's kind of an initiative to listen to more Australian music, to support Australian artists because, Australian artists, no matter if they're musicians or actors or any creative right now, I think need all the support. But their Insta is really cool. It's at Ausify AU and they post like letters of the alphabet, artists starting with S or B or whatever.
Okay.
So they're doing it kind of, in that succession, in that order. And they also post genres as well. So they're posting Latin Australian artists or queer or trans artists. And then
what made you want to do this?
So I saw it they were kind of doing PR a few weeks ago and we did an episode on this. So Chris did that.
And you were at the ARIA Awards.
Yeah.
So Aussie artists and stuff are really front of mind at the moment.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I just think it's a really good initiative to try and get more Aussies in your music rotation because we don't listen to that many Australian artists a lot of the time, like pop music or those top, hot hits. They're generally not Australian.
Yeah.
But you can just search Ausify, so AUSIFY, wherever you listen to music, Spotify, Apple, and they have a bunch of different playlists that you can choose from, listen to, you can select, add the songs to your favorites so it pops up. But the goal of it is to, naturally get more Australian music entering your algorithm and entering your brain space because there's so many good Aussie artists out there.
Okay, I love that. When you find a good Aussie artist, can you flick them my way? Because last time you did, there were like 3 or 4 different and they were so good and I've added them to my playlist because I'm a bit of a creature of habit. I would just listen to the same thing again and again.
Yeah, I do that too, but I am lucky to have a lot of friends who are musicians, so I will send them your way.
Okay.
Sorry, Antoinette, I forgot.
Okay, so this is going to seem like a bit of a strange recommendation. But I have started...
Hang on, not stranger than the ass-smelling, face cream? Right,
okay. This is another strange recommendation, okay? I have started going back and watching classics that I enjoyed when I was really young because my kids are like 10 and 12. And I'm like, what did I really love at their age? And just kind of seeing what dates, what is still funny. And I can report that I still have a 12-year-old sense of humour because when Rush Hour, an action comedy, came out, I was like 12 years old. Do you know Rush Hour? There's like a whole bunch of it. It's 2 cops. It's Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker. And the whole premise is like 2 cops from different cultures who can't stand each other. They have to team up in Rush Hour 1 to save a kidnapped 11-year-old daughter of a diplomat.
Right.
The dynamic is hilarious and the martial arts because Jackie Chan is a famed martial artist and Chris Tucker, this kind of was in Chris Tucker's heyday as a comedian. Some of the comedy's a bit like maybe a bit too racist, but they kind of get away with it because He's black and Jackie Chan's Asian, so they can't really get away with it more than other people would. But I can confirm that I still find it hilarious. My children found it hilarious. And then we continued to watch because then there was a Rush Hour 2, 3 and 4.
Oh, my God.
Right? And then we've now watched all of them again. And so I was like, maybe take a moment to think, what would a younger Helen or younger you absolutely love? And I watched it just to see the sensibilities.
Yeah.
What has changed? How have, I don't know, action scenes changed? The cinematography changed?
So true.
The martial arts changed, whatever. Yeah. And so I did that and like a couple of weeks ago, and then within the couple of weeks watched all 4. So if you haven't watched Rush Hour, or perhaps you have or vaguely remember it from your younger years, go back and have a look. Maybe it's just me who never grew up and still has a sense of humour of a 12-year-old, but I still found it incredible and hilarious.
I am going to go back and definitely watch that because I don't think I've seen the original. I actually don't think I've ever seen it.
Give it a crack and, let us know what you think, or perhaps if you have recommendations for us, because we are always, we love to hand out advice and tips, but we're absolutely open to hearing them from you too. If there is something you think that we should watch or read or listen to, or maybe an Aussie artist that you think we should have in our ears, do let us know. But that is it from us at The Weekend Briefing. The team will be back in your headphones on Monday with the headlines and a fascinating deep dive. And before you go, why don't you tell us also your thoughts on this interview with Marcia Hines? And if you're feeling generous, just give us a rating and a review. I mean, 5 stars is always recommended and always appreciated. Thanks, everyone. Catch you next week.